Hi, everybody. Welcome to our amazing wine chat that I'm very excited about today. You've got Jen and Laura here from Turquoise Wine Bar, and we get to introduce you to the fabulous Julie Johnson from Tres Sabores out of Napa Valley. Hi, Julie. Welcome to the
Hi,
show.
everybody. Hi, everybody. It's great. It's great to see you all. We saw you in Napa just a couple weeks ago, but it's great to talk to you virtually. I love this.
I
This,
know. It feels like we were there forever ago, but it was just a little bit. It was so good to see you. Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm excited because if you know us at Turquoise Wine Bar, you know that anybody going to Napa, we tell you to go to Tres Sabores. On my biased opinion, it's the best place to go in Napa um, because it has so much charm. It has so much character. It is small, and it just there's some great things happening there, Julie, that we are going to dive into and get our guests all excited to come visit you. But what I
Good.
really love to start with is tell our guests a little bit about yourself and your history in winemaking because we love featuring female winemakers here. But your history and starting in Napa and working in this industry for as long as you have is just, it's a fantastic story. So tell our guests a little about you.
Well, first of all, you should know that I remember since I learned the word when I was a young teen, believed in the word serendipity.
Mhm.
And specifically the serendipity factor. And so I feel like it's not even just fate. It's really just there's a bit of luck and good fortune and happiness and like, wow, why not? Mixed into everything in my life, especially in wine and actually in other things as well. But short and to a long story is I grew up in California. And I grew up to Midwestern parents. So I call myself a maraschino cherry baby because they never had, all they had was Manischewitz wine in the house, but they did do Manhattans. And so every once in a while, if I was good, they would give me the cherry from the Manhattan too. So, but the other thing that I think really was more to the point of loving the land and realizing what could come for it is that it's just as soon as I could drive, I started going over to Watsonville, over the hill to Santa Cruz and Watsonville, and doing those marvelous self-pick blackberry ventures. And so it was the idea that you could, you first off, at that point after a long harrowing drive over those mountains, you like quickly get out there and put as many blackberries in your mouth as you can possibly think you want. Okay, then you start to say, oh, okay, well, that one's a little less ripe. Okay, well, I'm going to do more of these because those are going to be more that I really want for the jam. And then those I want for fresh fruit in the next few days. In other words, it was like learning from vines, from berry vines, what was ripe, what was just right, what was a little overripe, and learning what that tasted like. And I didn't even realize this until later when I started saying to myself, I'll probably never pick a grape without thinking about what I'm going to be eating with the wine that I'm making from those vines. And I think that kind of started me thinking about food and fresh fruit and taste and different degrees. So your brain and your palate, it's all very elastic. And I think the important thing for everybody to understand is that there's a lot of joy in just practicing, right? That's what you guys do. That's what we do. Um, all the time. So anyway, jump ahead. I made a rather quixotic decision. Instead of going to school down the street in Palo Alto, I went to school in Maine. And I was pre-med, but I got very excited about public health and, well, people's well-being. And so then I went on to get a nursing and public health degree at Columbia. And then, kind of in the middle of all of that, I met a winemaker. How do you get in the wine business? You meet a winemaker and then you marry him. And so he was working in the Finger Lakes. I suckered my first grape there, tasted a lot of amazing wines there. Then he got a job back out here in the Napa Valley in 1980. So we moved lock, stock, and barrel out here in 80. We ran into a friend of his, Larry Turley, and Larry is very adventurous, as you know, and got us involved. Each family had a motorcycle. We sold those motorcycles and bought our first grapes
Oh,
in
wow.
1981. And that's how we started Frog's Leap. So we started with Sauvignon Blanc and Zinfandel, which to this day are two of my favorite varieties. Um, in so that winery grew, and I was drafted away from a nursing career pretty early to start. Instead of visiting people who had been pre-prohibition winemakers, I started traveling to to meet and meet new people around the country and actually around the world with the Napa Valley Vintners, and start really moving Frog's Leap around the entire country and the world. And it was very exciting, but then after a while, about 20 years, well, in the meantime, we had purchased this beautiful place in 1987 in Rutherford on the western Rutherford bench. I'm looking at the back of the hill right now, and it had 10 acres of Zinfandel on it, planted in 1972. So
Wow.
those vines are now, I just went to a historic vines conference with Jancis Robinson, which was really great to be there.
Wow.
So these old vines and I have been living together since 1987. We're not dumb. So when people said, hey, it's Rutherford, land of Andrei Chalashchev and George de la Tour Beaulieu, 1968, which I really cut my teeth on, like that was wine. It didn't take much convincing for us to bud over and then plant a little bit of Cabernet Sauvignon. You got to have, if you're in Rutherford, you got to have a little Cabernet Sauvignon, and that was fine. So March ahead, we bought out Larry in 93. We moved the entire Frog's Leap Winery to a beautiful old 1877 barn complex in Rutherford. And then we really started to go to town. Along about 1999, I know there my kids were teenagers and there were some changes afoot, and I kind of decided that I was done traveling 2 weeks out of four, and that I love, for my own sort of sustenance and for my kids, I needed two were teenagers. I needed to spend more time here at this beautiful place. Like, what was this place? What's the relationship? Yeah, I was feeling the relationship, yet I was doesn't, you know, too busy to really take it all in and let it ease into me a little bit more. So I decided that I would leave the industry unless I could come up with a brand new idea. The idea I came up with was new, and it was to hire three winemakers and give them each 2 tons of Zinfandel, not Cabernet, 2 tons of Zinfandel, and have them each make their own cuvee. Then we sold those cuvées in 3 packs.
Oh,
So Ken Bernard's, Karen Culler, and Rudy Zudima were my first winemakers and my tutors. I was the cellar rat. And we did that project for 4 years. So Tres Sabores, 3 flavors, 3 tastes of the place, 3 opportunities to taste the 3 flavors in each glass, the vine and the terroir and the good company. Really important. It was a quite a beautiful song that was introduced to me about that time, because I was looking for something with threes, and I was also looking to something that would underscore my appreciation and my respect of what was really going on in the land.
yeah.
That was really, I really got that that was the core. We had been paying our growers at Frog's Leap to farm organically even before the National Organic Plan. So when we moved to this vineyard in 87, we definitely had to put our philosophy and our money where we were needed to go, which was to absolutely eliminate all synthetic materials and start paying much more attention to the soil and the soil health. So, doing that and feeling like that was really important, that is to pay attention to the people who are doing the skilled work in the land to make essentially all of these cultures that have come through Napa Valley, the Latin culture that is here now and has been so strong and so skilled. I just wanted to kind of figure out how to wrap that all up. So I was introduced to this beautiful romantic song, Sabor a mi, from it's still a famous artist, a crooner, real crooner, a Luis Miguel. People will know that name. And it was suggested that instead of 3 tastes, 3 flavors, what I really had were, instead of 1 taste, 1 flavor, what I really had were 3 flavors, 3 tastes. three tastes. So Tres Sabores, three flavors. But flavor is such a poor translation of sabor, which really is full of passion. And people come to the winery and they've had that song as their wedding song or as their family gathering song for decades. And so some people will actually put the song on while they're tasting and dance. It's just great. But it really is the idea that you're incorporating what you're doing. You're incorporating wine into the gatherings around the table, into what you're doing and how you're enjoying. So I started to make wine. A new man came into my life, John Engelsberger, and who had been a winemaker also since the mid 70s. And he said, you know, you really should make wine. And so there you are. How do you start in the wine business? You marry a winemaker. That's a really crazy idea for you to follow, but I don't know, it has been a long time and at this point, but it's still every season, I have to say, feels pretty fresh. And the relationship that you can develop with a piece of land, especially a piece of land that you're taking care of,
Mhm.
you're creating diversity, is has been pretty special. That's a long story. I'm so sorry, but
Oh,
I
it's
feel like
awesome.
there's so much there we didn't know. How is it possible we haven't heard some of those?
I had each winemaker had their own emblem, their own pre-Columbian bowl. And then when I just started to make wine myself, I went with the
Mhm.
single bowl. It was actually a bowl that I found in Ecuador, a series of bowls, old pre-Columbian bowls, and I had them reproduced. And I loved the movement, the feeling, the idea that they were used for food, not just
Mhm.
funereal pottery. And so it all put together. People tease me and they say that I've probably used every artistic medium to define my labels, and that's true. So between woven materials and lithographs and pottery and a couple of other things, it's pictures of um, wine coming out of the press pan. I mean, so we've used a lot of artistic media because I'm not making much wine of any of the many varieties we make. So I felt like they each have their personalities. Let's just go with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I know you've got a project called Women in Wine. Can you
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, it's actually more than a project now. A wonderful friend of mine, Michaela Rodino, who at the time was in the process of becoming one of the very first women CEOs in wine in the Napa Valley. This is in a very male dominated area in general. The beverage industry in general is like that and still is. But she became the first CEO, one of the first CEOs in the area, and she was the CEO of Saint Superi. And she had come from many, many years at Domaine Chandon. Um, we were with a number of people at a conference, and this is 35 years ago now. There had been a lot of cycling through of misinformation and bad information about wine at the family table. There was a lot of dissing, a lot of patronizing of women in particular in the business, and women who were having children and raising kids and having wine at the table. Just a lot of misinformed and on the part of many industry people kind of head in the sand kind of behavior. It's not as wasn't quite as bad as it is now because the misinformation is spread through the internet and social media and all of that. But we sought as a group of women to come together and put some nuance and some common sense, along with a really healthy love of wine in moderation into the forefront. And we did, we succeeded. Now that organization is 35 years old and has chapters all over the United States. It's not a huge organization, it's a volunteer organization, but it's been wonderful to feel right now, again, at this time, a lot of resurgence and energy towards the cause, which is really Karen McNeil's cause, which is all of our causes, your customers. Bring people around the table, gather people around the table, enjoy a glass of wine with each other, have something to eat, take some time. So that's Women for Wine Sense, Sense. And if you go on the web, I hope people will, and find that it's just WWS, womenforwinesense.com. And I think we're one of the most well, we are one of the most sustained nonprofit organizations for women in wine. So there are professional members, non-professional members, members who are just plain out wine enthusiasts, educators, and it's very an all-encompassing and all-welcoming kind of group of people. And but we always keep personal education and responsibility and nuance and respect for this beverage that does happen to have alcohol, respect for people who cannot drink this beverage.
Mhm.
I mean, as a former nurse, I'm pretty keen on that. But being supportive in a family atmosphere and enjoying wine is just something that I know people around me have grown up with. Now, we can't take any credit for the number of women winemakers that we have now, but there were very, very few. There are still very few who, like me, own their own winery solely, sole owners, and make their own wine. But there are now many women coming up, many more women coming up. It's very exciting.
Mhm.
Most of the women, or many of the women, are working for themselves or working for independent wineries. Um, and those are the people that I hope your customers, in supporting us, that's what you're doing. But going forward, as people think about supporting small independents, I guarantee you that you'll quite often find a woman at the core of that type of independent, authentic business that we're all, I think, recognizing as something special right now. So I'm proud to be part of that group, but I'm kind of an oldster now, obviously, and there are a lot of really exciting women coming up. Now, a lot of second generation. I mean, modern Napa, you were calling the attention that Napa only got its official AVA in 1981. I didn't even realize that when we started Frog's Leap, there were like 50 brick and mortar wineries in the Napa Valley. Now there are 300 and something and 500 plus wineries, labels, and there will continue to be more. And that's incredible. But when we moved to Rutherford in 1987, Rutherford was yet to be an AVA. So that just gives, I think, some distinction to the place. But it's been fun to be exploring all this time.
That's awesome. That sounds like something we need to get going here in our market. That would
Yeah.
be fun.
Oh, it would be,
Need a
it's yeah.
chapter. Sounds like we need a chapter.
I think that's great. Let's kick it out. Let's kick it
Yeah,
out
let's do
in town.
it.
I think that
So
would be great.
you had mentioned we have been lucky enough to come to your location a couple times and spend time. And I think it's interesting when you said you were able to slow down and actually build that connection with the land. We love your location. Would you share with everybody like the people, the animals? We love the animals that are there. Talk to us a little bit about your place, the people, the animals, the plants, all the good stuff.
There's a lot of good stuff
I
here.
know.
You're going to make me get very quickly into confessing that I have a bird label actually. I have a bird label. I couldn't leave the idea that there would be a bird label. This is called thinking cap. Like, what are
Yes.
we thinking about? So it's our most adventurous, like, what are we thinking about right now when we're thinking about strange varieties like Saint Laurent or Claret Blanche and
Yeah.
what happens with those? But um, we've always wanted to explore new things. And here we are in the heart of the Napa Valley on the west side, which for us makes a difference. We're on a slope, we're on an alluvial fan, which kind of have to look that up geologically speaking, but we're on the younger of the two mountain ranges. In the Napa Valley, we're along in the foothills of the Mayacamas, about halfway up the valley. We get a lot of fog from the south, from the bay. We get a lot of fog from the north through the Russian River Valley and Calistoga. Sometimes we get fog over from the west, from Petaluma Gap and all that. What that means for most of Napa Valley, but we're right in the heart of it, is a wonderful opportunity to take advantage of the fact that we can have growing paradise for grapes during the day, 85, 90 degrees in the growing season, even gosh, we've been known to have temperatures in the 90s in even 100 in early May, but moderately warm temperatures during the day and cold temperatures, 45 to 50. So you're 55, 60. So you're talking about a 30 to 50 degree, 30 to 30, well, 20 to 40 degree swing in temperature, diurnal temperature swing. That's what gives us, and where we are, especially because we're shielded, the late afternoon sun actually gets cut. We're in shade because of a big mountain behind us. So that fights the issue of warming and increasingly difficult issues with heat domes and drought and other issues. But anyway, we benefit from what all of Napa benefits from, which is this temperature change. We're right set for that. And we have, as an alluvial fan, we have very deep soils. So one of the first things we did was to stop irrigating.
Oh, wow.
One of the things that I've done planting cover crops and legumes and grasses during the growing season, the winter growing season now through March, that continues to enrich the soil and continues to give the soil tools to hold water and minerals and encourage a very active, healthy microbiome, a mycorrhizal environment that is, you could think of it as a carpet almost. So knowing that, I actually several years ago now stopped tilling my property either. So the idea has all been to shift to this wonderful, I think pretty darn authentically in supportive soil for a long time.
Yeah.
We are now, it's like but we are now the longest standing organically certified property in the area. There are lots of others that are, that we're so proud to be in their very progressive farming community. Spotswood, my alma mater, Frogs Leap, the Mathiasons, Saintsbury, Trefethen. They're all sorts of wonderful places that are very dynamic all sorts of dynamic farmers. But we've been doing that dedication to authenticity and growing for a long time. And then there's also it's only 20 that's very old, but only 20 years ago, an organization nonprofit called Napa Green started up as well. And so now we are both certified as a vineyard and as a winery with them. So um, I look at my place as almost a lab because we're trying, as part of the Alliance, Wild Farm Alliance, we're trying to be part of the flyways for native birds and raptors that eat the insects that are the vectors for disease. We're trying to create diversity plus,
Mhm.
try to grow a lot of things, pomegranates, lemons, olives, but walnuts, but then also all sorts of native plants, sages and various grasses. Um, that bring in beneficial insects and that make the place hum. So that's been the benefit of being on this beautiful place. Animals are a big part of well, gosh, 25 years ago, when I started Tres Sabores, it was like, okay, you think about something. Okay, so what am I going to do I'm in a little place at the end of a very small road, about a mile and a half from Highway 29. What am I going to do with the skins and the stems and the seeds that come from the end of the winemaking process? Like landfill? No, so I decided to bring in animals, sheep and goats.
Mhm.
They, they are either roaming, they're tethered, but they're roaming in the vineyard, or they are in their corral, doing their natural depositing thing.
Mhm.
And to this day, during the harvest period, we take the manure and straw and the pumice, the seeds and skins and stems from the wine making process, and layer it just like a lasagna. So we make lasagna every year. And that so that goes back out in the place and makes things happen, obviously. Putting that's that's where we turn the corner from being organic farmers to regenerative organic farmers, because that is really truly the system that we've known for how long have we been cultivating things? 10,000 years plus.
Yeah.
Um, that's the system that made things hum, that regenerated the soil, regenerated the health, and kept the balance going. We've always felt as people the right to farm, but what we have to be careful about is not letting that right take over our responsibility to steward and to manage the system.
Mhm.
And I do believe that we can farm and mitigate our invasion of natural territory. We can't make it perfect, but the important thing is that we're trying
Mhm.
and that we let people know around our property, and you all and your customers know that it's actually possible in your own little way to make a step in the right direction, even what you do in your own backyard or in your own garden, or what kind of things you buy for that wonderful dinner. You can all make choices. And again, quite often it's supporting the smaller, not always smallest, but smaller independent farmers and the people that, from our point of view, and there are more and more of us every day, just have their heads on right and are really trying to make a difference. So I get to take advantage of all of that. And I think that um, I really think that the quality of my vines has continued to be sustained, the health, and then also that makes for quality wine, healthy soil, healthy vines, good good grapes.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
mean, that's why we love you, Julie. Yeah. All of this, if that doesn't tempt somebody to get their rear ends over to Napa here soon and actually experience it in person, I don't know what would.
Well, I'll probably try to tell everybody about why they should have a bluebird box or an owl box,
Right.
but you
That's
know.
We
okay.
love the goats. We love the goats.
We
I
do.
do too.
All of
They're
it. It is such a
crazy.
special place. It just feels different than everything else in Napa. It feels different. It feels special. It feels like community. It's a true farm, which I
Mhm.
love.
It's
So
very humble. It's very natural.
it is.
It is.
Here's the thing, Mother Nature loves a blanket or loves a carpet or loves a trench coat. And
Yes.
so things don't look as tightly groomed, but hey, if you were a spider, what kind of self-respecting spider is going to walk across something that looks like a slick dinner plate where the
Right.
soil is dead? And so all of us, I think, benefit from that. We raised our kids here, and they all would go out and we're gonna pretend to be mom and dad and go work in the vineyard. Well, that's an obvious kind of transition, a reason to do the right thing from the very beginning. So there you are. And
Yeah.
now I have grandchildren here and young kids visiting and dogs visiting. And so it's ever more important.
It is. We love it. So you are one of our winery partners here at Turquoise. So if you're in our wine club and you want to go to Napa, you have to go see Tres Sabores. You have to come meet Julie in person and experience this. Julie's going to take care of you. She's going to give you some great benefits for being in our program. And that includes a tour of this beautiful vineyard. You can go see the goats yourself. It's a lot of fun. It's so very cool. So thank you, Julie, so much for
Thank
doing this.
you.
This
Thank
was
you.
wonderful. I hope we've sparked some curiosity with people on experiencing this vineyard and learning more about organic farming and these practices that are such an important part of the industry.
Hoping
That's
to come visit us soon. So everybody stay tuned. Next event with Julie, we'll definitely let you know and we'll be able to try some Tres Sabores wine.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys so much for being willing to explore some different varieties and some homemade wine right here
Yeah,
from Tres Sabores. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
thank
We
you.
love it. So thank you. And everybody else, hope you enjoyed this chat, and we will see you very soon at the wine bar.